Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Catherine. I am from SEB Housing, and tonight we're going to run the lottery for the 49 affordable rental units at the Wright in Waltham. Some people are still trickling in here, but I'm going to get started. We're going to do the lottery in just a little while. I'm going to give you some background information on how it will be run and next steps as we get this started. So if you have any questions during the meeting, you can go ahead and unmute yourself or use the chat box here in Zoom. And so you're encouraged to do that if you have any questions during the process. This is going to be done digitally, so I'm not going to be drawing numbers from a box. This was a high interest lottery, so I'm going to screen share with you so it's as clear as possible what is happening tonight. Just a quick reminder right off the bat is that the results from tonight still need to be sorted. So if you're number one on, you're the first person drawn in the lottery, it doesn't mean that you're going to be the first person on the waiting list because we still have some work to do after the fact. You will get an email from us by tomorrow letting you know what the results were from tonight. So just to give you some background information on the lottery and let you know how many applicants have applied, there's really no need to write any of this down. It's going to be in that email that comes to you by tomorrow morning. There are 49 total affordable units, and 37 of those units are going to be offered to households with a total household income at or below 80% of the area median income. And then the remaining 12 units will be offered to households whose total income is at or below 60% of the area median income. We received 306 completed applications, so there's going to be 306 households in this lottery. And there were 73 households who indicated that they have local preference, meaning that they live or work in Waltham. There are 10 different waiting lists that are going to be compiled using the results of the lottery drawings tonight. So rather than listing through those different details for you, sometimes we get questions about how many local preference households there are on certain waiting lists. So I'm going to share my screen real quick with you so you can see some of that info as I continue talking here. And so you should be able to see it now, the breakdown of each waiting list, how many units are available, how many applicants came in, or applications came in, completed applications for each of those units, how many people qualified for local preference, and all of that. So I'll leave that up for a couple minutes for you. All households in the lottery should have a lottery application number. That's the number that you're going to see in the lottery results. So we're not going to be calling anyone's name tonight. And when you get the lottery results, you're not going to see your name on a waiting list. It's going to be that lottery application number, and it's in the form of a series of numbers. So in this case, your number is between A.001 and A.306 for the 306 applicants. If you don't have that number, you forgot it, you can let me know in chat or by asking, and I can get that for you. I do want to mention up front that the developer has made us aware of a slight delay in their construction of the Wright in Waltham. So following the lottery, there's going to be a waiting period of about 5 to 6 weeks. So normally right after the lottery, the top household would be put in touch with the leasing office, and then they would immediately be moving forward to start the lease application with the leasing office, but that isn't going to be the case here. I'll explain a little bit more later on about how the delay will affect you, but it is expected that the first affordable units will be available for leasing beginning in February, and that the leasing office for the Wright will be in place by mid-December. So about 5 weeks from now, they should be in place, answering questions. They'll be available to start the leasing application process with you. So there's going to be 2 different drawings tonight. I'm going to be using, as I mentioned, it's going to be done digitally, so I'm going to be using the website random.org to complete these drawings. First, I will do the drawing for the local preference household, and this is going to include everyone who indicated that they either live in Waltham or work full-time within the city. So how I'll do that, I'll screen share with you in a few minutes to show you before it actually happens, but I'm going to insert those 73 local preference households. Their application numbers will go into the list randomizer function in random.org. It's really just a box where you press randomize, and the website will digitally generate a random order. So we're doing it this way to try to keep the results truly as random as possible, rather than grabbing, these hundreds of numbers from a box that may get stuck together and all of that. So after the local preference drawing, I'm going to insert the application numbers for all households who applied to the lottery. So the 306 households will go into random.org next using the same function, and it will again generate a random order. So you'll see all that in just a few minutes. If you're a local preference household, you're going to see your name on both of these lists when I screen share, because you've been drawn both for the local preference randomization and then for the full lottery. So it's going to be done instantaneously. You're going to see the results of the drawing right away. No need to listen for your number. I'll be sharing my screen. And that order that comes up from the random.org results will allow us at SCB Housing to properly sort the results onto the waiting list. So the waiting lists themselves are going to determine in which order your household will get to reserve a unit if you're one of those top households. So it's important to remember, again, that the order from tonight's drawing are not the final order of the waiting list. I'll be sorting the results after the call tonight by type, household type, so your size, local preference, and whether or not you indicated a need for a unit with disabled accessible features. So after the lottery, everyone is going to receive an email with next steps in the process. That will be sent to you by tomorrow morning. And as I said, a copy of those waiting lists will be attached to the email. So you're going to see where your lottery position is relative to other lottery applicants. And of course, if you applied for more than one unit size, you are going to be on more than one waiting list. So if you applied to both studio and one bedroom, you're interested in both of those units, you indicated that on your application, you'll be on at least two lists. There was one applicant who didn't provide an email address, so that person will get a mailing from us, but everybody else we do have an email address for. And so when you receive that email, again, all of this information that I'm mentioning right now is going to be in the email that you receive, but just still want to go through it before we start. On the waiting list, you're going to see that the top households on each list are highlighted in green, and that's because those households will be invited to move forward in the process by completing that lease application with the leasing office. Of course, that is once the leasing office is established, which will be about 5 weeks from now. And then they'll be able to conduct a tour with you to see the property, and then they'll be able to process your lease application. The leasing office might invite more households than there are available units to complete their lease screening. And this is just because a lot of times applicants drop off, they might not be eligible, they change their mind about renting a unit. But again, none of this will be happening until at least mid-December when the leasing office staff for the Wright is in place. So until then, just sit tight for about 5 or 6 weeks. We know that that's not ideal for any of you, but this seemed to be a last-minute delay with getting utilities to the property and all of that. But it's been squared away. They are going full speed ahead with the construction now. So the households with the highest positions on the waiting list are going to have the first chance to select and reserve a unit. If you're not one of those top households on the waiting list, you're not going to be moving forward in the process, unfortunately. But if for any reason one of the top households or more than one of the top households ultimately doesn't rent a unit, households that are placed further down the waiting list will be contacted to move forward. So your takeaway from this really should be that if you're not one of those top households after we run this lottery, you're not going to be contacted, but you could be contacted further down the line as people drop off ahead of you. Couple more things. So it's important also to keep in mind that SEB has only completed your initial program screening, and you haven't been found lease eligible by the leasing office. So even if you're the top household on these waiting lists that you see tomorrow, you're not going to want to give notice to your current landlord immediately, since you don't know if you are qualified to rent a unit yet at the Wright. Once a household has been found lease eligible and reserved a unit, the leasing office will contact SEB Housing, and then at that time you would be required to submit all of your income, asset, and tax documentation for your final program eligibility review. And all of this is going to be in the notice that you get later on tomorrow. Every household who was found eligible for the lottery should have also received a documentation requirements guide, and that has all the details you'll need to know about the income tax and asset documentation that we're going to need from you for your final review. So hopefully you've been able to gather some of that information already. It includes tax returns, pay stubs, that sort of thing. And you'll be given about 10 days to complete that. That, again, is not going to be until after you've been lease screened. So this is a couple months from now. And then finally, just a reminder that any household living in an affordable apartment is going to have a recertification each year with the leasing office. So you're going to want to maintain your income and tax records for as long as you're living in an affordable unit at the Wright. A couple questions came in from you guys. So what if a lottery number was not received via email? If you didn't get a lottery number, you may not be entered into the lottery. You probably were found ineligible at some point, or hopefully is what is the case for you, maybe it went to your spam. So if you, Jessica, if you want to let me know your full name, I can look that up. You can send me a private message through here. Same with you, Sylvia. If you could, it's great to see you, by the way. So hopefully you can send me a private message with the person's full name if there's more than one as well. Zach, you're asking can you tour the apartment if you're not on the waiting list? Yeah, as far as if you're on the waiting list, you would be able to if they were allowing tours right now, but they are not allowing tours yet because it's still active construction over there. They want to hold off on any tours right now. But December 15th, you know, maybe you're further down the line, you're still interested in seeing the apartment or the property. Yes, I would reach out to the leasing office, and you can go ahead and contact them about scheduling a tour. Yep, thanks, Guy. Look for an email entitled application number. Yep. All right. So, any other questions before I start? Again, I haven't done the drawing yet. Anybody who's just joining, just was giving a lot of information to you before we do these drawings. There's going to be an email that goes out to everyone by noon tomorrow that's going to have the results, because we're still going to need to sort through the results from tonight. Are the floor plans available before tours are scheduled? If the floor plans aren't on their website, it's something that the leasing office will be able to get to you. Barbara, I will take your name from this chat and send them to you if I have them, but I don't think we have them. All right, if there's nothing, oh, thanks, Guy, for the website. You're so helpful already. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share the screen that I'm going to use for the drawings. So I'm going to bring up random.org. And bear with me, I've only a few. All right, you should be able to see my screen again. This is just the website to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Very basic looking. Obviously, if I typed in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I clicked randomize, it's going to spit back out a random order of those 5 numbers. Your lottery numbers are going to go in here. I'm going to be copying them from another sheet, and that's how we're going to do this. So obviously, it's going to be a long list. If you have specific questions, you want me to tell you where you were called, I can do that. But again, just want to remind you that they're not sorted right now. The results won't be sorted until tomorrow. So if you're asking for your placement now, it's not really going to be all that helpful to you because you still need to do those priority sorting. All right, so I am going to get things ready here. And then we'll get going. I know nobody wants to be on a call for longer than they need to. So I'm going to pull up a list of numbers that I have that are the local preference households first. Got a couple screens going on here, so I just want to show you again. This is the list that I'm going to be using. Everyone who indicated local preferences here, this is everyone's application number that indicated local preference. I'm going to take all of those and I'm going to put them into that list randomizer that you just saw on my screen. This is everyone who had local preference. So this is the local preference drawing. I'm going to click randomize and it's randomized the numbers for me. There should be 73. There's 73 numbers there. Just real quick before I get off the screen, I'm going to put this in a Word document so I have a separate record of it, even though this meeting is being recorded. So those are the results of the local preference drawing. And we will use these results to sort all of the waiting lists for the Wright that have local preference tied to them. Not every waiting list has local preference, but those of you who do either work full-time in Waltham or live in Waltham have local preference on several of these lists. So again, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. And then I'm going to move on to the general drawing. And again, all of the numbers in the general drawing are going to be, it's going to be everyone. So A.001 through A.306 are now going to be added into that list randomizer. I'm going to share my screen again for you. And I apologize, there's not really a super transparent way to do this, but this is as good as we can do before the results are actually sorted. So here we are again. I'm in random.org. Should be able to see that on your screen. Everybody's household, everybody's application number is here. And I'm going to click randomize again. This is the general drawing. So this is everyone who was found eligible. First application number is A.171. But again, we haven't sorted these results by household type or anything like that. And that means that if that first person on there only applied for a 3-bedroom unit, for example, and they're not a type 3 or type 3 household, they will not be the first person on that list. So again, these results aren't really helpful to you right now, but I still will let you know where you fell if you aren't interested. So just 1 second again, and then I'll open it up. All right, so that was it. I'm going to share my screen one more time here because I have the results in both screens here. So this is the general drawing. This is the order that everybody's number was called in the general drawing. Again, these are not sorted. They're also not, you know, put into the different waiting lists. So potentially if you're further down the list and everybody ahead of you didn't even apply for the unit that you're interested in, then you might be higher up the list than you appear. This is the local, I copied and pasted that, a little strange, but the first person called in the local preference drawing was A.017. And I think I do have one chat. Lisa, you had asked about A.227. You were last in the local preference drawing. On the general drawing, you were 297. Oops. Just going to do a few of these. So A.175, the 72nd in the general drawing, not on the local list. I know it's hard to see. A.138 in the general drawing was 79th, not on the local drawing. 137 was 251st on the general drawing, not in the local. 166 was 90th in the general drawing, not in the local. Well, don't quote me on that. I didn't have it searching both. If anyone thinks they were in the local drawing and I just told you that you weren't, please let me know again. How many units are available? So there are 49 units total that are affordable at the Wright. There's a breakdown of, you know, the different unit sizes, and there's studio units, there's 1-bedroom units, and 2- and 3-bedroom units. But there's 49 total. It's quite a few for a building. Okay, so we've got A.127. You were 47th in the general drawing, and you were 15th in the local drawing. 207. Again, just a reminder, these aren't sorted, so it's not really helpful, but I know it's useful, I'm sure, for you to see if you're anywhere near the top. So A.207 is 61st in the general drawing. 182. You were 128th in the general drawing. You were 36th in the local drawing. 195. You were 219th in the general drawing. You weren't in the local. 215, A.215. You were 291st in the general drawing. You were not in the local. 193, A.193 was 303rd in the general drawing, and you were not in the local drawing. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of messages. Okay, I'll do as many of these as I can. Again, these are not sorted. So General drawing A.248 was 183rd, and you were 68th in the local. 290, you were 67th in the general drawing. 161, you were 81st in the general drawing, and you were 69th in the local drawing. Zach, in the local drawing, you were 10th, that's A.276. And in the general drawing, you were 119th. 248, A.248 is 183rd in the general drawing and 68th in the local drawing. A.252, you were 33rd in the general drawing. A.293, you were 56th in the local drawing and 264th in the general drawing. A.071, you were 187th in the general drawing and 6th in the local drawing. So what this means is if you're 6th in the local drawing, for example, you're going to have pretty decent priority on the local list that you applied for. If you will have potentially a lower priority on the general drawing. So if you have a local priority on the local list, all the local households are going to be higher up on the list than households who are that don't have local preference. All right, I'll do a few more of these, but again, these are not sorted lists. So I just don't want anyone, thinking that this is their placement. So A.171, you were first in the general drawing, and you were not in the local drawing. A.81081, you were 265th in the general drawing. All right, so there's pretty much everyone on this call obviously is asking for their numbers. So I'm going to, I wish I could sit and look at these all for you. I am going to leave it up for you to see. I will scroll through this now. This is a general drawing. I'm going to scroll on here so you can look for your number there. I know it's small. Not ideal. But again, these are all going to be sent, sorted. All the waiting lists will be sent by noon tomorrow, and you'll have a better idea of where you're going to stand. If I told you you were 75th on the general drawing right now, these aren't even sorted by, waiting list, unit, none of that. So not super helpful. But if you're the first person on the list, you can probably, unless everyone ahead of you is local preference, you're in good shape. So this is a 306. There's 306 numbers here, obviously. It's on the right. You're looking under order drawn. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I'll go to the local drawing in just a minute. There's only 73 people on that one. And then you should have an email from info@sebhousing.com by 12 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to work to get these results sorted onto our waiting list, and you will have an email with information from tonight, and then also the results, the sorted results attached to the email. And again, just For anybody joining a little bit late, there has been a construction delay for the Wright, so there's going to be a little bit of a lull, even for the people who are in top positions on these waiting lists. You're not going to be asked to move forward to start your lease eligibility paperwork with the leasing office until at least mid-December. We've been told that December 15th, they should have their leasing team up and running over there. So at that time or just after that time, you will hear from them about scheduling a tour, coming in, filling out your paperwork for the lease criteria, and then going from there. The estimate right now is that the affordable units will start becoming available in February. All right, so I'm going to click over real quick to the local drawing. You can see A.017 was drawn first. There's 73 households on this list. I'm going to scroll down for just a few minutes here. So those are the list there. We'll be sorting these results, and you will have those by tomorrow. How do you determine the order afterwards, after the apps are sorted? There was a question that came in here. Okay, so on the information packet, it's showing you the different priorities for each waiting list. So, for example, when we're looking at a local preference, 1-bedroom waiting list, the top tier, everyone who's local preference. Now, again, there's also the added complication with the Wright, where there's 2 different income tiers. There's people who are making under 60% of the area median income. There's units designated for people making under 80% of the area median income. So there's a local preference waiting list for a 1-bedroom household, for a 1-bedroom apartment under local preference if your household makes under 80%. The top households on that waiting list will all be local preference households who qualified for 80%. After all of those local preference households will be the non-local preference households. Those are for 1-bedroom and studio units. There's no designation between the type 1, 2, and 3 households, which is basically your household size. When you get to the 2-bedroom apartments, we're going to be sorting it by type 2 and type 3 local preference households first. And that means if you're a single person, you're not going to have top priority for a 2-bedroom apartment. You'll be further down the list after all of the larger household sizes. And that's the case for the 2-bedroom and the 3-bedroom apartments. So hopefully that's a little, gives a little more clarity. For local, again, I'm going to scroll up. And then again, these are not sorted. I'm going to send these tomorrow morning. So there's a question for anybody that was found ineligible due to the income requirement. Are there other programs available that are more inclusive? The lotteries that we offer are typically 80% of median income or under. If you have a housing voucher, the minimum incomes do not apply because your voucher is going to be covering a percentage of your rent. So if you're found to be over income, there are some lotteries that I've been involved with that go up to 110% of area median income, but most of them are between 60 and 80%. Zach, you also are asking here, how do you sort the 3-bedroom apartments? Yep, so the 3-bedroom apartments, if it's a local priority waiting list, type 3 local preference households will be first. So that's larger bedroom sizes, followed by type 3 households who don't have local preference. Then we go to type 2 households who have local preference, and so forth. So the household size is weighted heavier than the local preference size. So if you're a non-local preference household on a 3-bedroom waiting list that has local preference, you're still going to be above a type 1 or a 1-person household who has. The open waiting list that don't have local preference as an aside for you is the 1 studio apartment that is a 60% AMI unit. There's also a waiting list that is not local preference for studio apartments that are 80%. There are 1-bedroom apartments at both 60 and 80% that are not local preference. And then both of the accessible apartments are not local preference. So if you applied and you needed a unit with disabled accessible features or hearing impaired features, those 2 units are not local preference either. All right. So for non-local, I'll scroll down one more time, and then I'm going to get sorting so we can get these results out to you by noon tomorrow. On your screen now is the general drawing, by the way. Again, scrolling down a little bit for you. Just reading your comments again here. Okay, so Angelica's asking, is it true that whoever gets all the documentation and deposit up front gets it even though you may be further down the list? No, that's not right. So the leasing office will need to honor the waiting list order, regardless of who gets their information in first once they're called to move forward. So if, if leasing office invites 10 people forward, the first person on the waiting list that was invited will have first selection of the unit that they're eligible for. So if they're number 1 on the studio 60% waiting list and 5 people are called forward and they're the last person to complete the lease eligibility process, as long as they didn't miss any deadlines or anything, they are still going to be the first person to be able to select the unit. So the waiting list order does need to be honored at all times, both by SED and the leasing office. So the minimum income, it's come up in questions here. So the minimum income is not a program eligibility. Each leasing office decides what their minimum income requirement is. It's usually 2 or 2.5 times what the rent is for the apartment. Leasing offices typically put that in place just to, make sure that their tenants can afford the rent. And it's the same amount for affordable tenants and market rate tenants. So there's usually a local, I'm sorry, I keep using the word local so much. It's usually a minimum requirement that's across the board for any tenant. It has to be actually a minimum requirement for either affordable or market rate tenants, just to make sure that the household can afford the rent, right? If the person doesn't have a subsidy. So is it possible for a non-local to get a 2-bedroom before a local? It's possible if your household is a type 2 household and you're talking about, a local preference type 1 household. So if you're a 2-person household or a 3-person household, you're likely going to have priority over a local preference household who only has 1 person. So it all depends. We'll be sorting these tonight. Just still scrolling down here. I'm going to scroll down just one more time again here on the general drawing, and then I'm going to start to sort these. So you will have your results by tomorrow morning. If you have questions on what you're looking at tomorrow morning when you get the email with the attached waiting lists from us, you can let us know. You know, everybody's number should be there, but if you have questions on it or how it was sorted, let me know. Again, that email is going to come from info@sdbhousing.com. So keep an eye on your inbox. Hope to have these to you before noon. So Angelica here, how would we know about the sorting process and how it will be divided? The information packet that's on our website under the listing for the Wright has on page 12 and 13 the waiting list and how they will be sorted. So it's got the different tiers in there for you so you can see. And also in your eligibility email that had your lottery application number, it would have let you know what household type you were and whether or not you qualified for local preference and that sort of thing. So you'll see that. Will the results change after they're sorted? No, not unless you see any mistake that's in there, but hopefully there is not any. But those will be the final results that you'll get before noon tomorrow. So keep your eye on that. And, you know, again, I wish that we could sort them on the spot and you know, but the process takes quite a while for us to go through, especially for a large property like this that had a lot of applicants. We have to make sure that we are sorting everything properly so that everybody is in the correct order. And I appreciate you joining me tonight, and hopefully it's pretty clear when you get the information in writing from us. But appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you have a good rest of the night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.